What are some of the primary financing options available for franchise buyers, and how does each option work?
So most people, I would say, if they don't have a lot of money, cash, and they don't have old retirement account that they're going to roll over, the most of the people would be looking for SBA financing. SBA financing is an amazing tool because it can finance between 80 to 90% of the total project cost. Generally, some banks might be a little lower on leverage, but the banks I typically work with are doing 80 to 90%. So the other financing would be if you had an old retirement account and it was eligible, you could do what's called the Rob's rollover. Some people do equity lines, and then we also have alternative financing, which could be an option. So lots of the options. Some people couple their retirement account for the down payment through the Rob's plan and then get an SBA loan. Generally, that's what we look for. Some people get an equity line on their house and they use the down payment for the equity injection for the SBA loan. Some people have cash in their pocket, use SBA. Some people have cash and pay cash. So it just really depends. But we do have a lot of options, and we will sit down with you and kind of ask you a few questions and then figure out what avenues might make the most sense for you.
For someone new to SBA loans, could you walk us through the steps involved in securing SBA financing for a franchise?
Yeah. So first, what's the name of the franchise? Is it an established franchise, emerging franchise? Is it on the SBA directory? Let's just say for this, it's an established franchise. What's your credit score? Do you have good credit? Yeah, I have good credit. Great. How is your utilization on your credit cards? Are you charged up, or you have very low utilization? Okay, those are general questions we would ask as we're assessing the deal. So assuming that you had good credit, what is the total project cost of the investment? It's $200,000. Okay, well, do you have 20% down in your bank? You need 20% of the total cost. Great, you do. Okay, now do you have a little bit of reserves left? Rule of thumb is we generally need 10% of total project cost. So the total project cost is 200,000. We need to have 20,000 additionally. So roughly we need about 60,000 liquid. So I'm asking these questions as we're discussing. So 20% down, 10% post-close liquidity, good credit, projections on point, meaning you're going to do projections that's going to show some cash flow by year 2. There's some caveats with projections we've talked about on this channel. No past credit problems like BKs and foreclosures in the last few years. Never defaulted on federal debt. That's generally what we need. Do you have outside income that supports your outside expenses today? So are you going to do you have a W-2 job, or are you self-employed right now? Is that going to continue for the purposes of this loan? If that all checks the box, it's fairly easy. 3 months of tax returns, resume, business plan, and projections, and a few other forms.
How can potential franchise owners assess if they qualify for an SBA loan, and what factors play a critical role in approval?
Kind of answered some of that. Generally 680 credit score or better. We're going to use the SBSS credit scoring model once you apply. Outside income that supports outside debts, 20% of the total project cost available for an equity injection, plus 10% post-close liquidity. Post-close liquidity basically means after you put down your down payment or equity injection, that you have 10% left in reserves of the total project cost. That's not a set rule, hard rule, but some banks, that's how they gauge it. We have banks that don't care and will do far less in reserves, but these are just general rules of thumb.
What advice would you give to someone who's ready to start the financing process but doesn't know where to begin?
Go to bookwithbo.com and book a call. I think I can answer most of your questions within 5 or 10 minutes. I can give you good feedback, whether you want to work with my team or not. Just go to bookwithbo.com. We have a lot of experience in franchising and financing franchises. So I think we can cut through the chase and we can just give you feedback right away and point you to the direction. Like when I asked a few questions, I could say, okay, probably I have 1 or 2 banks. This is where they'd be. We could do a 90%, or no, we can't do 90% on this type of deal. We do an 80%. This is what you need for an equity injection. We can do that in a 10-minute call. Very simple to do, So that's the easiest way of getting started. And then get your 3 years of tax returns. I'm going to give you a few forms to fill out. So we'll need a sources and uses, and that's basically a form where you say, hey, franchise fees $59,000. I need 3 months of working capital. I need this, this, and this. That's your sources and uses on a spreadsheet. So it adds up to 300,000, which is your total project cost. So that's, you're going to go off the FDD, and I can help you do all this. I can just point you in the right direction to make it easy. But a lot of people think, oh, SBA is so difficult. It's really not. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's just shuffling some papers and getting a few documents together. If you want to get 80 and 90% financing, it's really good. Where it gets complicated, if you're buying real estate and you're doing a business acquisition and the cash flow is hard to find on the tax returns, we have to do add backs, and then there's contamination problems on the property you're buying, or the seller's financials aren't that great, or your financials aren't that great because you already own a business. That's what slows us down. Everything else is pretty straightforward.
Can you give us an example of a success story where SBA financing made all the difference for a new franchise?
Sure. Got a call from a gentleman, and he was in the sales business in the service industry, and he didn't have much money. He did fairly well, though. Just an average guy. He probably made 6 figures, so a fairly decent salary. But he was always grinding, and it was a sales-based W-2 job. And he said, "I'd really like to own a business," and so we got him into a painting company, franchise startup, and his down payment or equity injection was $12,500. And so I always think about that, because it's like $12,500. I mean, it's money, but it's not like your life savings, hopefully. And that just goes to show me that we can help everybody. If we can help, generally, if you have 20 grand, you have good credit, we can find something that will work for you. Now, ideally, if you're trying to replace a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 job, you're going to be looking at multiple territories from the start, and we'll get into that and why you're not going to buy one franchise. But the average Joe, for a little bit out of pocket, could get into the game of entrepreneurship. So that really sticks out in my mind. And so that's why we're passionate about helping aspiring entrepreneurs become successful business owners. If you're looking to grow your business, I put together an ebook. It's all about utilizing virtual team members and AI together to 10x production. If you're looking to grow organically without having a massive team and massive overhead, this ebook's for you. It's free. You can go to bizscalingplaybook.com, get your copy. It's got all the tools I use, some prompts, and much, much more. It's an evergreen book. We'll continue to add to it. Get your copy now before it's too late. Hey guys, Bo Eckstein here. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe to this channel. We talk all things financing. I've been in the lending industry for over 20 years, and I'm happy to answer your questions and provide great content.